My name is George Klein. I'm a Memphis, Tennessee radio and TV guy, disc jockey for a million years here in Memphis, and have a TV show now called Memphis Sounds with George Klein. And Elvis and I met in high school in the 8th grade. It was a music class, and Christmas was approaching, and the teacher said instead of studying music lessons next week, we're going to do Christmas carols. And Elvis asked the teacher if he could bring his guitar to school and sing, and she said yeah, and he got up in front of the class that day, the next week, and he sang 2 songs. He sang Cold, Cold, Icy Fingers, and he sang Old Ship. And I was totally impressed, and that was a bonding where I met Elvis, and we went all the way through high school with the same exact grades. I became senior class president, and got out of high school, and I started working in radio and TV in Memphis. He started recording and traveled with him for a year before he went in the Army, and I was in 8 of his movies, little bitty parts, minor parts, what they call silent bits or something to that effect. And then when he went in the Army, I went back into radio and television, and when he got married, I was a groomsman at his wedding. When I got married, he was the best man at my wedding, and when he passed away, I was one of the pallbearers at his funeral.
Well, you know, Dr. Nick came to me one day and he said, "Is the suite available?" And I said, "It is." And he said, "Well, Elvis is sick and I need to bring him in." I said, "I don't really want Elvis on this floor." "Why not?" I said, "Well, I have 52 patients up here, and I see all of them every single day, and those that are sick, I see them twice a day. Those that are really sicker, I see them twice a day." And I said, "I'm afraid it's going to be too much confusion and too much turmoil." He said, "Miss Cock, I promise you, you won't have a problem with it." I said, "If you're sure." So I met him and loved him immediately. Who wouldn't? He was being shaved. Sitting up on the side of the bed being shaved, and I walked in, and he introduced me to Joe and whoever else was in the room. I don't even remember other than Joe. And so we stood there for a few, and he said, "Do you know who this is?" I said, "I know who he is." So then after the interview, after I met him, everybody got ready to leave. Vernon was there, and so they were all ready to leave. And Joe said, "Elvis, we need to see about private duty nurses for you." And he said, "I'm going to talk to Miss Cock first. We'll decide." So about 1:30 that day, he said, "What do you want me to do about private duty nurses?" And I said, "Honey, that's entirely up to you. What do you want to do about private duty nurses?" He said, "Well, I'll have them if you want me to, but I want you to be the one to take care of me." And I said, "Then save your money. And I'll just assign my 3 to 11 charge nurse to take care of you and my 11 to 7 charge nurse to take care of you." He said, "Okay." So that's how it started.
There was one Christmas that Elvis took all those boys down on Union Avenue to Schilling Motors. They sold Cadillacs and Lincolns. He bought every one of those guys a brand new car that night. Well, after they all get so excited, Elvis had a special car that he had ordered. And so while they was all standing in the showrooms, right outside the door there was a little black lady there. And she was waiting for her son to come pick her up, because after the offices closed around there, she went in at night and cleaned all of the office because their car wouldn't start. So finally, she said, "Maybe he'll be here in a little while." So sure enough, he showed up. The car was clunk, 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 clunk. So Elvis looked at her and he said, "You mean at your age, you working down here cleaning office?" She said, "Yes, sir, that's the way we pay our rent and buy our groceries." He gave that lady his car that night.
Wow. That is amazing.
And left the clunker sitting there. And he looks around and all of the guys are so excited they got cars. They split. They get a car, they gone this way, that way. Elvis was standing. Now the manager of that car place had already locked the door, and him and Elvis was standing outside talking. So he said, "Well, I'm going to go ahead and leave." He left. Elvis is sitting on Union Avenue in the middle of the night, no traffic, no cars, nowhere. He's standing in the middle of the street by himself. So he happened to walk back kind of at the side of the building, and he saw a light on under the door. So he walks back there. He could see a black man in there working. Yeah. So he knocked on the door, told him, said, "I'm Elvis Presley. Can I get in?" He said, "No, sir, can't let you in." He didn't know who it was. So finally Elvis convinced him and let him in. He said, "I bought all the guys a car, and they've all gone. I do not have a way home." People wonder why he didn't have a phone. Back then, you didn't have the phone you carry in your pocket today. So old Willie told him, said, "Well, if you'll wait, I got a few more little things, and I'll take you home." He said, "But my car hadn't got no back seat in it, and my passenger seat has got a spring in it." But Elvis said, "I'll sit anyway to get home." So old Willie took Elvis home, let him out, and he told him, he said, "Willie, I need your address and your phone number. I got a friend who I use his phone." He said, "Well, let me have the number." The next day, Willie was invited to Graceland with a brand new car.
Wow. This was June 25th of '77. I knew CBS was filming a TV special, and I said, "Man, I would love to be part of that special, not only seeing Elvis on that tour." So I found out he was going to be in Cincinnati, I was living in New Jersey at the time, so it was probably about 600 miles away, not that far of a ride. So I went out to Cincinnati to see the show. Of course, I didn't have tickets, but his shows were always sold out, and there was never a problem finding a scalper. So anyway, I went out to Cincinnati, and I did see the camera crew out there at CBS, and I went up to them, and I said, well, at that time I said, "This is going to be my 80th Elvis concert." And they said, "Well, sit down, we'd like to talk to you." So I sat down, probably talked to them for at least 10 minutes, and as it turned out, they left a few seconds of that interview on the TV special, which I was completely thrilled about, because they interviewed probably, I don't know how many hundreds of people. So I also went, after Cincinnati, I did go to Indianapolis the next day, which turned out to be his final concert ever. So I'm fortunate to be one of the 18,000 that got to see Elvis on his very final performance. So yeah, when the show was released in October, I had no idea whether I'd still be on it or not. But needless to say, I am on the show, and also on the album as well too, which was an extra bonus.
That is really
It's
awesome,
really
man.
cool, man.
I'm Blanche Jordan Scott. As Blanche Jordan in 1949, I met a young Elvis Presley and George Klein. George Klein got home first, so I ended up walking with Elvis Presley all the way down to Lauderdale Courts, where he lived and where I worked on a school program at Old St. Joseph Hospital. So we were together down through the years until he made Love Me Tender.
Welcome everybody. Hello Elvis fans. It's good to see you all. And for those of you that are old enough to remember, we had memories of Elvis over here. How many remember? And that was founded in 1978, right after Elvis died. And I was about 12 years old when I opened that store. And we had a great 27 years there, and we love each and every one of you that made that happen for us. I made some really lasting friendships there, and it was all because of Elvis. But there was one person in particular that helped me get that store started. In fact, he named the store. And this guy right here, he worked for Elvis, and he is my very, very best friend. And his name is Dick Berg. You know him. And I'd like you to give him a hand. He helped make that happen for us way back in 1978. I really appreciate him. Love him.
Can we go now? I thank everybody that supported Carol, because indirectly you supported me and Elvis, in the sense that there has never been and never will be anybody but but Elvis. Some 38 years ago, he moved to a new location, but his music is still here, and the fans he loved are still here. You all are exactly why Elvis loved to sing. He loved his fans, and unfortunately, not everybody got that. I remember in 1997, there were a couple of television programs. One was America Comes to Graceland. They were making a big thing out of that. You people have been coming to Graceland since Elvis bought it, and you're still coming to Graceland. There was another program that said Elvis Presley was the first king of rock and roll. Who the hell is the second king of rock and roll? Welcome to Elvis Week. Have a great time. And it's been a pleasure to see new people that I haven't seen in a long time, and some of the old people like me that have been here since the beginning. Miss Carol Light is one of them. She wasn't 12, 13 maybe, but not 12.
How was Elvis at Karate?
Elvis was Elvis. Elvis, being an entertainer on the level that he was, performed what he could martial arts wise. By that I mean he couldn't get hit. If you hit that face and changed the way it looked, you would have changed his business, his icon, and everything else. So it was a situation that whenever he came up to the building and worked out, he worked out in his way. We were not allowed to hit him, and that made sense to us because didn't want to injure or harm that trademark that he had become.
She was a very sweet lady. She was very outgoing. The pictures that you see of her looking sad, she was not a sad lady at all. She was the backbone of that family, and she was the heart of that family. She was very kind to me. I was privileged to have known her.
When the broker sold the airplane to Elvis, he asked me to fly it from Wichita down to Fort Worth, where it was redone and inside and painted. And then we had an interview with Vernon Presley, and got hired by Elvis.
Somebody was telling me a couple of days ago, I'm not sure if this is true, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but that he called you up randomly one night and said he wanted to go get, I don't remember if it was cheeseburgers or something, and
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches out in Denver, and that's true. That just called us up. It was actually Lisa Marie's birthday, and we went to Denver and sang happy birthday, and then we got the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They were about that big around, 28 bucks a piece, delivered right to the airplane. And then we couldn't get into Long Beach, so Lisa went to the hotel with security and airlined in the next day. We went to Baton Rouge and then back to Memphis.
I was Vernon Presley's barber from about 68 till way up in almost 80. And then I moved to Mississippi, but I cut his hair for about 12 years.
How'd you get that job?
Well, I just happened to get a job when I got out of barber school in the Whitehaven Shopping Center, which is about 3 blocks from Graceland. And he was just happened to come in the shop, you know, started cutting his hair, and I guess he liked it. He continued to come.
In between, a lot of times we'd stop off in Las Vegas on the way home from a movie. We'd go through Vegas and stay a week or so there and just have a good time, see some shows, some entertainers, because Elvis wasn't performing during that time on stage. And then we'd come to Memphis and we would go to the movies, we'd go to the fairgrounds. These are places we'd go to, after they had closed to the public, and Elvis would have them all night, just like he used to do the skating rink. He'd have it all night. And we would drive motorcycles, ride motorcycles, just do just about anything that we wanted to do, you know, and then we'd head on back out for the next movie when it came time. We were always here at Christmas time, always at Graceland. It's a very, very special time, place at that time.
Well, when I was 17, I went to the gate. Of course, during Christmas time, Elvis always came home, and everybody would go out to the gate to get a glimpse of him. So I decided this year I'm going to see him. So we got to talking, and Harold Lloyd, which is Elvis's cousin, told me, we were just standing there talking. He said, "Come back tonight, and I'll guarantee you'll get to see Elvis." And so I thought, well, at midnight is when he wanted me to come back. And being 17, and my mother was very strict about me being out late, I didn't think I'd make it, but I did get my brother to bring me back. And we came back, and sure enough, we were out there, and Elvis called down and said he was fixing to go to the Memphian Theater. So all these people, it was like 25 people around there that was there all the time apparently. They all got in their cars and headed to the Memphian Theater. And so Harold told me, he says, "Get in your car and go out there." We had met a couple there, Judy and Travis, and they said, "Just tell them that you're with us and you'll get in." So we go to the Memphian, and we're standing out in front, and they open the door, and all these people go in, and when we get to the door, they shut the door. So my brother and my girlfriend were ready to just leave. Look, they're not let us in. So I said, "Well, I'm gonna knock," because they said to tell them that we're with them. So I said, I knocked on the door, and they opened it up. I believe it was Charlie Hodge that opened the door, and he said, "It's closed, you can't come in." And I said, "We're with Judy and Travis." So they called Judy and Travis, so they let us in. And trying to make this long story short, while we were standing in the lobby, in walked Elvis, and my legs just went to jelly. And that was the first time I ever met him.
Last time I seen him was in University of Illinois, October 22nd, 1976. Great show. I took the whole family. I had 3 sons. I had my wife, of course, and then my brother was going to the University of Illinois. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got tickets. He stood in line. This was before all the computers and all the technology they have today. You had to stand in line and get Elvis tickets. And he bought 7 tickets, and we all went to see him that night. It was a great show. Great. I'd heard that he gained weight and everything, but I thought he looked great because I hadn't seen him for about 3-4 years. But I thought he really looked great, and his voice was great. Everything about him, he was moving. So, and then I guess it's just hard to believe that he was gone less than a year after that.
It was interesting. My mom and dad were ministers, so we didn't hang too much with him in the early years. But back in early 70s, started hanging and doing Elvis shows actually. Used to see him at concerts and go to movies with him every once in a while. And he knew I was doing Elvis shows even back then. So I got a big newspaper article written on me one time, and dropped by Grayson to see if he would see what he thought about me doing Elvis shows. And about 3 weeks later, I got this nasty, threatening letter from Colonel Parker that he didn't want me doing Elvis show. He didn't want me to try to make it off the name of Presley, but that was my name, so I never stopped anyway.
Well, as being eight years difference in our age, a lot of things he was doing that I wasn't quite doing then, but we always, had a pretty close bond. He kind of looked after me as a kid, and what he did and what I did as a kid was, somewhat different, because like I say, there was 8 years difference between us and all. But Elvis, he was somewhat just a typical teenager as far as, things that were done. He, in school, he got along pretty well with most of the kids, and not much of a party goer, but he got involved in certain school activities and different things like that.
From Elvis Radio, and so glad to see all of you here along Elvis Presley Boulevard. We are all here tonight connected because of one man. here to celebrate his life and legacy. It's a legacy that each of you are a part of. Those of you who are here from overseas, who've come from all around the world to be here. Those of you who've traveled all across the promised land to be here at Graceland tonight. Everyone who's been transformed by or reveled in the rebellion that rock and roll was and still is. And everyone who has been moved to tears by the passionate gospel music that Elvis brought to us and loved so much. We are all connected. We are all here tonight in the name of love. And you can feel the love at Graceland. Any given day, morning, noon, or night, you can feel the love at Graceland, but especially tonight. And we want to send that Memphis love out to all of our friends and family who are watching via live stream at Graceland.com and listening on Elvis Radio on Sirius XM. Can everybody here along Elvis Presley Boulevard just give a little shout out, make some noise, and say hello to everybody at home? We're spreading that Memphis love as we get ready, and there are people here tonight that will be carrying a candle for you, and we hope to see you watching at home and listening on Elvis Radio here at Graceland, maybe next Elvis week. You are welcome here anytime. All right, now it is the fan tradition. Every year we're going to light our candles in a sea of solidarity. We have news media here from all around the country and all around the world. This is such an impressive sight. So if you'll begin to start and light your candles, we're going to go over a few things to remember before the ceremony officially begins. Candles can be obtained at the front of the gate anytime during the vigil. Please be careful with your candles and be mindful of your surroundings and the proximity of your neighbor in line. Still cameras with or without flash may be used on the mansion grounds during the vigil. However, camera tripods and video equipment of any kind are strictly prohibited. Smoking is not allowed anywhere on the Graceland Mansion property. While no food and drinks are allowed on the mansion grounds, several water stations are located throughout the property for your convenience. As in years past and prior to daily tours here at Graceland, bags will be subject to search before entering the mansion grounds. But they are here along the south side of Elvis Presley Boulevard across the street. While you're in line, please be considerate of others in line behind you and do not hold up the movement of the procession by stopping at Meditation Garden too long. Handicap access wristbands are available at the airplane gift shop. The meeting area for those requesting special handicap access is at the first aid tent, also by the Lisa Marie Airplane entrance. That will happen at 10:30 p.m. tonight. Now, please raise your candles for this annual photo moment. Thank you very much. The next time that you will relight your candle, you'll be heading through the gates of Graceland. Thank you for being here. We're glad you're here tonight. We are going to now turn the program over to Elvis Country.
The members of Elvis Country Fan Club welcome you all to the annual candlelight service. We are here tonight for one man and only one man, Elvis Presley. We are here because he touched us so much and gave so much to enrich our lives beyond all of our understanding.
The theme for this year's candlelight service is thinking about you.
And will forever and ever. A long time has passed since that day you went away. The world cried that day and will cry today. Elvis will never stop thinking about you and wishing you were here. Long after we are gone, others will still be thinking about you till the end of time.
In honor of of his passing August 16, 1977. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you being here.